She pounded on my door so hard it rattled the windows. "Open up or we'll break it down!" A man's voice shouted from outside. I looked through the peephole and froze. 3 men in fake uniforms stood there, holding a piece of paper that looked like an official notice. Behind them, Karen stood with her arms crossed, smirking like she already won. "This property is under HOA violation. We're authorized to enter and seize what we need." One of the fake cops barked. Karen added, "If you don't cooperate, you'll be arrested today." For a moment, I stayed quiet, just listening. My fists clenched, but I forced myself not to react. Because what they didn't know, my wife was already 2 steps ahead of them. She had been suspicious for weeks. Strange cars circling our street. Fake letters stuffed into our mailbox. Karen showing up with new rules nobody else in the neighborhood ever heard of. My wife had been quietly collecting everything, photos, recordings, even the tags on their so-called patrol cars. What Karen thought was her moment of victory was actually the trap. I opened the door just a crack. "You're making a big mistake," I said calmly. One of the men pushed forward, trying to wedge his boot inside. Karen hissed, "Don't listen to him. He's just a squatter pretending to own this place." That was the moment my wife stepped out from the back room, holding a folder thick with documents and a recorder in her hand. She didn't look scared at all. She looked ready. "You really shouldn't have come here tonight," she said, her voice sharp but steady, "because everything you're doing is already on record." The smirk slid off Karen's face, but it was too late. The game had just shifted, and she didn't even know how badly. Karen's eyes darted toward the folder in my wife's hands. For the first time, she looked nervous. The fake cops shifted uncomfortably, like they weren't so sure about their plan anymore. But Karen snapped, "Don't just stand there, go inside." "He's trespassing on HOA land." One of the men shoved the door harder, trying to push his way in. That's when my wife clicked a button on the recorder. The sound of their threats echoed back at them, every word captured. "Open up or we'll smash it down. We're authorized to seize what we need." Their own voices filled the air. I leaned against the doorframe, calm. "Funny thing," I said slowly. "Because the sheriff's office already confirmed, no one from law enforcement was sent here tonight." Karen stiffened. "He's bluffing," she snapped, but her voice cracked just enough to betray her. My wife didn't blink. "Actually," she continued, pulling out a photo she had printed earlier, "this is your car, Karen. Same license plate. Parked behind the HOA office last night, where you met them." She laid the picture on the table in plain view. The men exchanged uneasy looks. One muttered under his breath, "You didn't say they had proof." Karen shot him a glare, but cracks were showing in her control. That's when a low rumble came from the street. Headlights cut across the yard. A county sheriff cruiser rolled to a stop right at the curb. Karen's face drained of color. My wife whispered, just loud enough for Karen to hear, "We didn't call them tonight. They've been watching you." And in that instant, everything flipped. The sheriff stepped out of the cruiser, his boots crunching on the gravel. He didn't hurry, didn't even reach for his radio. He just looked at the scene, Karen standing there, arms shaking now instead of crossed. 3 men in mismatched uniforms, and me and my wife blocking the doorway with absolute calm. "Evening," the sheriff said slowly, eyes narrowing on the fake badges. "Mind telling me which department issued those uniforms?" The men froze. One stammered, We're here on HOA orders." "HOA?" The sheriff cut him off, almost laughing. "Last I checked, homeowner associations don't get to deputize. Thugs." His hand slid casually toward his holster, not pulling, just reminding everyone what real authority looked like. Karen tried to regain her voice. "Sheriff, they're with me. This man, he's trespassing. He forged documents to claim this house. I have every right." My wife stepped forward and handed the folder over. "Actually, here's the deed, and here's the footage from 3 weeks of surveillance. Everything Karen just said is a lie." The sheriff flipped through the papers, nodding slowly. He glanced at Karen. "Funny thing, ma'am. You reported this man as a squatter last month, right?" Karen lifted her chin, desperate. "Yes, because he is." The sheriff turned another page, then looked at me. "Sir, you signed this property 20 years ago. Military loan, correct?" I nodded once. "Yes, sir." The sheriff's face hardened as he looked back at Karen. "Then we've got ourselves a problem. Because filing a false police report is a crime. And impersonating an officer." He let the words hang heavy in the night air. The fake cops stepped back, panic flickering in their eyes. One actually whispered, "We're done." "I told you this was a bad idea." Karen's mouth opened to argue, but before she could, red and blue lights flashed from down the road. More cruisers, real ones. Her whole plan was collapsing right there on the street. The second cruiser stopped right behind the sheriff's. Two deputies stepped out, hands on their belts, eyes scanning the scene with sharp suspicion. The fake cops tried to stand straighter, but next to real lawmen, their cheap badges and flimsy uniforms looked like Halloween costumes. Karen panicked. She raised her voice, waving her hands wildly. "Arrest them! They're dangerous!" "They threatened me. I'm the HOA president. I have authority here." The deputies didn't move. One just looked at her and said flatly, "Ma'am, HOA presidents don't call in tactical raids." The sheriff signaled toward the fake cops. "Gentlemen, unless you want to spend the night in county, I suggest you explain who gave you those badges and why you're pretending to be officers." One of the men cracked immediately. He threw his hands up. "It wasn't my idea. She paid us. She said it would be easy, that he wasn't even supposed to be here." He pointed straight at Karen. Her face went pale. "Liar." She screamed, but her voice was shrill now, desperate. My wife stepped closer, holding up her phone. "I've got the transfer on record." The money went straight from Karen's account. She turned the screen toward the deputies. "She wired them last week." The deputies exchanged a quick look, and that was it. One of them pulled out cuffs. Karen stumbled backward, shaking her head. No, you can't do this to me. I am the HOA. This whole neighborhood listens to me." The sheriff's voice was calm but cold. "Not anymore. You just crossed the line from nuisance to criminal." And as the cuffs snapped around her wrists, neighbors began to peek from their windows, porch lights flicking on one by one. The woman who had strutted through the streets, bossing everyone around, was being dragged away in front of the whole block. But I knew it wasn't over yet. Karen wasn't the type to go down without one last trick. This is part 1. Subscribe to the channel, watch the part 2. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing HOA Karen stories.